Alrighty, and we're recording. Hello, Professor Klein, Megan, and whoever else may watch this. My name is Bryce Tomecek, a senior level history major at SDSU, graduating here very shortly in a few weeks as of the time of this recording, and very excited about that. Graduating with my BA of History with honors distinction and an honors minor, of course, as well. And then, like I said, completing up my internship, which I've been doing with Old Town San Diego. I've got my little notes down here, so now that I've introduced myself, I'll just get right into it. What did I do for this project, for this internship? I made a Smithsonian Learning Lab, which is totally new to me and something I'd never done before. Let me just share screen so we can see what we're talking about. So for the Lost, a Smithsonian Learning Lab is an online educational tool used with the Smithsonian Institute to provide educational and instructional materials for the general public at large. The idea I had was to create a comprehensive style, almost like virtual museum exhibit that the state park can make use of in the future, and that could be built upon and increase that online presence. So what I did is I took the approach of going chronologically topic by topic, kind of getting into as much detail as I felt was acceptable or appropriate while still covering the important basics. Initially, Megan and I had discussed trying to do a maritime focused learning lab, and I tried to keep it centered in that direction, but I found that there was a lot of contextual or other topic related information that just didn't tie with the maritime thing. So anytime it came up and was relevant, I certainly included it, but there were whole swaths where it just was not the case. So what do we have here are a total of, let's see how many, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, I believe. I may have miscounted that. Humanities, not STEM, so my math isn't always great. But I did these different modules, and the great news about this is this can be added and built upon in the future. I kind of got a little pressed for time at the end, so the later periods of Old Town didn't really cover as much, but I try to cover the areas as much as possible for things that would be relevant or that sort of thing. In particular, the seminal text 2 Years Before the Mass by Richard Henry Dana proved extremely useful. I've been recommending that book to anyone who wants to learn about California history or history of San Diego or just anything relating to that topic. Richard Henry Dana did a fantastic job, and I can see why that novel is so, or that book rather, is so pivotal. So let's just pick one of these modules. So let's do, I think this one has some good visual aids. So I try to condense this as much as possible while this is loading. I'll skip that for now. I try to keep this as condensed and focused as possible, just to make sure that we won't have too many different things or this, that, the other, but there was just a lot of information. It was very information dense. So what I did was I just took a different topic, in particular with 2 Years Before the Mass. I bring it up because there was so much information to cover. So if we talk about this one here, we can see this is going to describe just scenes as they are described in the book. This describes the book itself. Basically, the voyage that is described in the book are Dana's experiences. I divided it into 2 parts, described from why he was taking the voyage in the first part, what the background context, why were these merchants out of Boston going around the Cape of, around the tip of South America for Boston or for the California hide and tallow trade, got really into that. And then went a bit more specific, and in this case, we're looking at this module here, where it has information just about what that history was, what was going on, and a lot of the significance or why this matters today. We also can go into here with the annotations for the visual aids I found. I had to go back and add citations to this. Wasn't something that got past my or is something that escaped my attention or notice the first time around while doing this. So if we just continue, we can see I've just found some visual aids online. Some of these stuff, if I could go out, I just took pictures of it myself. I did it with the Casa Dea Studio, but with the ship here, the Pilgrim, the replica wasn't Dana Point until I think 2015, and then it sank, unfortunately. So I had to find online images of it the best I can. And then for each of these different visual aids, I went and put an annotation with numerical system, just a simple bullet point of just what each image is, what we're looking at, and just why it's relevant. And then if we go up here, I've got the citations going on right there. So if we go down here, it's chronologically left to right, top to bottom, just like reading a book. So I try to keep it concise and straightforward with that one. And it actually was a lot of fun. I can say I learned a whole bunch of history that I didn't know before about San Diego, California, the early days of Old Town, the whole 9 yards. And it was actually a ton of fun to learn all that stuff. What I created the park, what I learned, I think that pretty much covers that. I'll just go into a couple more of these different modules here is what I'm calling them. So here's another one. This is about the Kumeyaay. With this one in particular, made a point to say that the Kumeyaay are still here. This is still their ancestral land, all that sort of thing. So we see map of their territory. I was able to find a lot of lithographs of the topics that I found were coming up, some historical photos, and then some contemporary images as well. In particular, I was able to fortunately find some really good images of like local powwows that the Kumeyaay have done, because that's a huge portion that I think doesn't get talked about with American or California or San Diegan history in general, despite it being literally thousands of years in most cases. Again, just try to keep it pretty relevant and on topic and focus. I didn't want to get too much into tangents, but a lot of it was very information dense. Pretty straightforward overall, not a bad experience. And despite all the challenges of the time with the pandemic, I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Despite all the challenges with the pandemic, with it being unusual, not being able to do a lot in person, limited resources, it being a very hectic time with a lot of uncertainty, I from the start said, okay, this is a chance to shine and say, hey, despite the challenges, a lot of good things happened. In my case of the Smithsonian Learning Lab, the beautiful part is it's not set in stone. It can be treated as a living document. It can be upgraded and expanded upon in the future if so desired. It can be built upon, and it's free for the public to use, which is what I was trying to go for. I try to create a almost like a virtual comprehensive tour of the history of Old Town as a whole, in particular focusing on the indigenous Spanish mission period and Mexican hide tallow trade eras. Overall, that's pretty much everything I had. This internship was actually a really good experience, one that I enjoyed working with through and through, and it's something that I would definitely recommend doing in the future, even if it's the virtual side of things gets downplayed and favor more in-person stuff in years where there is not a global pandemic going on. Pretty much all I have. I hope I didn't ramble or rant too much, and I really hope that this is a good quick presentation on what I did, pretty straightforward rundown, and again, overall positive experience. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening. I'm not really sure how to end this, but I'll just leave it at that. Hope you have a good rest of the day. Hope you enjoyed this kind of impromptu presentation I have with what I did for the internship, and hope that you think the work was up to quality and up to par as well.